Right here, this is where our recording starts. Welcome everybody to the Fambundance Learn and Grow call with Mr. Hal Elrod, the author of the Miracle Morning series, the author of the newly published Miracle Vision, also the author of one of my favorite books, Taking Life Head On, and just an incredible human being. Super lucky to have you here. And here's how I'm going to introduce you, buddy. I'm going to introduce you by telling everyone what Chip wrote, which should only take maybe a minute or two. This is the way we're going to start the call.
Great idea.
We love people as they are and see them for what they can be. My dear fellow MMers, my dear fellow Fambundance members, I'm Chip, the guy that Hal Elrod brought on to help grow the Miracle Morning Life company, to help make an impact, to make us better, and to serve you, the people of the Miracle Morning community, who resonate with the message and who are striving to become better versions of themselves each and every day. I am one of you. 14. I love the Miracle Morning, and I joined the company because I believe so much in Hal and the message of the Miracle Morning. And I don't want this to sound corny or flippant, but I love you. I respect you. And just the fact that you're here with us means so much to me. I honor you for who you are, and it's an honor for me to work in service of you. Now, I want to share a few things with you because we're about to go on a ride of epic proportions together. Hal, Tiffany, and I just finished a day of strategic planning for our little movement. Okay, it's not so little, but trust me when I say that we're just getting started. And I'm so excited, like coming out of my with joy and anticipation over some of the things coming down the road for all of us. You're about to get most everything and more of Hal, the Miracle Morning, and truly the miracle life you want for yourself. And it's going to be fantastic. We literally exist to help each of us live a better life, to be better versions of ourselves, to strive for and accomplish worthy goals and ideals, and to grow during that process, to have the kind of life, the miracle life that we all want, a life of purpose and fulfillment, a life of service to something greater than ourselves, a life of abundance in all things, a life of kindness and empathy and joy and fun. And we are going to be helping make that happen for all of us in some very big ways. And as excited as I am about that, I want to start this by telling you the quote at the top of this post: "We love people as they are and see them for what they can be." This is why I'm so excited to be a miracle worker with Hal and striving for our mission. Today, as our planning, we talked about the values that our company holds dear. All of us lifted love as the first one. And Hal himself perfectly articulated this, our first and most important value. That means that we will be honest and to do our best to have an extreme fiduciary, putting your needs first and doing what is right for you in everything we think, say, and do. And it's the reason I love our company and what we are doing. I hope that when you see our emails or when we have a training or make an offer to you, that you can feel that love coming through loud and clear. We love being miracle workers and we love you. To be continued in the weeks, months, and years to follow. Buddy, that's a great description of all the things that you created in the world right there, man. You consistently put people ahead of yourself and always been striving to improve people's lives through just sharing your stories, which is incredible, man. So would you like to add anything to that, that post by Chip Franks, who is what's his official title?
Chief Miracle Worker. Yeah.
Chief Miracle Worker.
He's the CMW. Yeah. Until further notice, until there's, if he has a more official title, but that's as official as we need. I would only add to that all of that. I'll share it in a kind of a counterintuitive way. That big mission of changing the world is actually the thing that held me back from being the person that my family deserved, being the parents that my kids deserve, and the husband that my wife deserves. I'm getting choked up. Because for me personally, I've been on this mission to impact millions of people. And it often, I'm always thinking about the big picture, and it kept me from focusing on just time with these few people who I live with, who matter to me more than anyone in the world. And for very long, I believe I was lying to myself unknowingly, and I think that many of us do this in different ways. But I thought that family was my number one priority. And if you would have asked me my top priority, I would have said, no doubt, my wife, my kids, family, hands down. And it wasn't until I got a very rare aggressive form of cancer a couple of years ago and nearly died that opened my eyes to, I say that family's number one. In fact, I think it, I believe it, and I even feel it, right? But if you look at my schedule, it tells a very different story. Because if family was number one, then why does my business get the most of me? It gets the best of me. It gets the majority of my time. And very often I would push off, you know, that's really what told the true story was I would, if I had to choose between, I've got a big project this weekend, or I could hang out with my family. Well, but it's a big, and I would justify, well, it's a big project and it's important and people are counting on me. What happened, and we'll dive into this a lot on today's call, but once I realized that family was number one, it made it really clear to say no to those projects in advance. So I never got to the point where it was the weekend and I was deciding between the family and the project, right? And also I want to just be really transparent in that this isn't a perfect 365-day-a-year way of being, right? Meaning my family's aware, like when I did my book launch recently, I had to go on a 14-day book tour. Well, being gone from my family is something I avoid. You know, I try to really minimize that. But this was an instance where I had to go to Brazil, then San Jose, then San Diego, then New York, and I was gone for 14 days, right? So that was hard for me, though. It was very hard for me to leave my family and leave my number one priority. But again, it's what John Berghoff, our friend Berghoff, calls intentional imbalance, right? That there are some times where it's not, balance isn't about everything being equal all the time, every day, right? It's that the majority of your time goes into your top priority, which hopefully is your family. But that doesn't mean that on any given day or week, you might have to allocate less time to the family, more time to your mission or your goals or your purpose outside of your family, right? So I just wanted to mention that. But for the most part, once I got clear on my family being my top priority, the only way that could really be authentically true was if my schedule aligned with that. If I could literally hand my schedule to a stranger and they'd be like, wow, so you have a rule in your schedule where you're not allowed to read a business book until you read at least 10 pages out of a parenting or a marriage book, a family-related book. Interesting. Wow, you start your day and your kids' days by waking them up in the morning and you spend 15 minutes. What do you do for 15 minutes? Why don't you just say, kids, get up, and then go back to work? Wow, you take your kids to school more often than not. Wow, you put your kids to bed every night. I mean, so the point is, right? Oh, and the weekends are allocated to kids, and 5 p.m. you're with the family. You have family dinner, then family time, then family pray time, then family stories, right? So that to me is the true measure of your priorities, is how you spend your time. So I'm like kind of getting ahead and I'm going for, further, but this is where we're going to go today, is how do you really make family your number one priority, not just in thought and word and emotion, but so that they know it, because you're literally giving the most of you and the best of you to your family, not just paying them lip service. So Jared, that's what I got to say on that, and I'm happy to go anywhere that you want to go today.
Yeah, well, I want to start by going back to this post. One of the ways that you're able to now do that is by bringing on someone like a Chip Franks, who is really giving you what you might call the time freedom and the leverage by you giving up some of what you've held near and dear to you for the last 10 years. So tell us a little bit from a business owner standpoint, how a guy like Chip Franks opens up opportunity for you as a dad and as a husband.
Absolutely. Well, first and foremost, or at least what I would share, is that Chip is so in alignment. You can tell, right? Like, in fact, he is more in alignment than I am with like my value. I mean, I literally, he inspires me. He lives his life at a standard of love and connection and gratitude and family that I aspire to, like truly.
Yeah.
When I read, that's what caused me to reach out to him to ask if he wanted to be on my team. Like, I didn't know his professional background at all. He literally could have been the most unqualified person to be on my team, but I would read his Facebook posts and they were all like that, with his kids and his family, right? And I'm like, dude, I love that human being. I hope that there's some sort of synergy professionally, because I just want that guy on my team. I want you, like, I love this guy. And it just turned out to be a miracle of miracles. When I called him, he had just sold 2 companies. He was looking to impact 1 million lives. And he was going to do it on his own, but he has no platform. So it's kind of a fun story. I called him. I'm like, Chip, hey, and he was a fan of Miracle Morning. He had expressed that he was, that he was a fan of me. We knew each other really from social media. I don't know if maybe we had met once or twice in passing, but I said, Chip, hey, here's, I'm looking to bring someone on. I don't know why my intuition for some reason said to reach out to you. Don't know if this is right. And he basically said, Hal, I just sold my businesses. I just wrote my first book. I'm launching an online course. My mission is to change millions of lives. He said, I'm a fan of yours, but I haven't worked for anybody in, a decade. And he said, and I'm on a path. Like I've mapped out my path and I know where I'm going. So, but he goes, gosh, I believe in your mission so much. Let me sleep on it and I'll call you tomorrow. And that night he prayed about it and he came to and basically in his words, the higher power, God told him, Chip, duh. You want to change millions of lives, and right now you have an audience of like 4. He said, I just gave you Hal Elrod and the Miracle Morning community and the ability to take your wisdom, and if you like me, and this was it. He said, you have to let go of your ego, of you owning it and it being your thing. If you're willing to let go of your ego and put that aside and really live authentically in alignment with your mission, which is to change lives. It's nothing to do with your name being on it. He said, this is exactly what you wanted, and I just accelerated your path to getting there. So I thought he was going to turn it down, and he called back this next day, and he told me that, and he goes, Hal, I'm in. I'm 100% in. And that was a few months ago, and it's been the greatest decision ever on so many levels. But so that's a tangent, a relevant tangent, but to answer your question, this started with Tiffany Swinehart, who is my assistant / director of operations. She wears a lot of hats in our company. In fact, when I say our company sounds like a bunch of employees. Our company has been me and Tiffany for 5 years. That's our company, right? Reaching millions of people with 2 people. And Chip is the first next person that we brought on, right? And I like to run lean like that. But with Tiffany, and this is important for everybody, especially depending on, if you're at depending on what level you're at, if you are a business owner or even a salesperson or any kind of professional, and you might go, gosh, what I thought when I brought Tiffany on is I'd like to hire somebody, but I don't have extra money to pay somebody like 20 grand or 30 grand or 50, whatever a year. I don't have that extra money in my budget. This was 2012, 13. And I said, I don't have the money in my budget. And number 2, I don't know how to work with somebody. Like, I don't know what I would have them do. I have enough trouble just figuring out how to do this stuff I need to do. I don't know how I would train them to, or manage them. I've never done that before. So that kept me stuck. For many years, I knew I should hire someone to be able to delegate things I wasn't good at and that I didn't like doing. And so I was at a restaurant, and my favorite restaurant at the time, Yard House in San Diego, and our waitress was Tiffany. And never met her before, first time waitress. And she was amazing. She was so attentive and thoughtful and just checking on us and just over delivering in every way. And she walked away from the table, and I just kind of said nonchalant in passing into Ursula, I go, man, I need somebody like that on my team. Isn't she amazing, sweetheart? And my wife, thank God for my wife. Every brilliant idea I've ever had is actually her idea that she just gave to me. But she goes, why don't you see if maybe she would work for you? And I go, well, I don't really have I'm sorry. She said, why don't you ask her if she needs extra work and see if maybe she could work part-time for you, and who knows? And I said, yeah. I'm going to do it. I'm going to ask her. So she came back to the table. I said, Tiffany, are you, I said, I know this is kind of out of left field. We don't really know each other. My name's Hal, by the way. I said, do you have any or interest in working for someone as like an assistant for an entrepreneurial business that's trying to change the world, And she said, not really, but I do need an internship for this coming semester. And in my brain, and this is why this is valuable for you guys, because if you have the concern of, well, I don't really have extra money in my budget to pay someone that would be qualified to do what I need them to do. She goes, in my mind, I go, wait, I'm thinking you need an internship. So in other words, you need work that I don't have to pay you for. Like, that's what my brain calculated, right? I go, interesting. I go, so what type of internship, how many hours? She goes, oh, it's part-time, like, you know, I don't know, 10 to 20 hours a week. She goes, I'd have to look in the details, but I do need an internship. And I go, well, hey, so let's exchange info. We exchanged info. I think I had a copy of the Miracle Morning or something. I gave it to her. No, I mailed it to her. That's right. I mailed it to her the next day. So the point is, she started as an intern and cost $0 for the first 4 months. It also took a lot of pressure off of me to try to figure out how to be this perfect manager and get everything right, so I wasn't wasting money on her figuring out what to do for me. Like, and I told her on day one, I said, Tiffany, I've never worked with an assistant. So this is going to be a learning process. And I'm letting you know that. Like, I don't have the, hey, here's exactly what you're going to do and how you're going to do it. And I go, we're literally going to co-create your role. And I'm going to ask you to really ask me questions and look, I need you to step up and be really self-reliant and ask me, figure out ways that you can add value, figure out where I'm struggling, figure out where I'm not good at what I do, the areas that I do, on and on. And so we co-created a role together. The internship ended after, 4 months. And I said, hey, I'd love for you to stay on. I think she stayed on at like $10 an hour. After 6 months, I gave a raise to $12 an hour. Eventually I got her on salary at like 30 grand a year, and then it went to 40 and then 50. And I think we're, somewhere around $50,000 or $60,000 a year. So she's been with me now for going on, I think 4 or 5 years. She's the greatest hire in the world. And what you can do though, is you could literally have interns for each area. So you could, if you need help with social media, right? There are now degrees, I believe, or, in social media, or in marketing. Like, you call the department at your local college, the marketing department, say, hey, I'm looking for an intern to help with my marketing and to learn marketing from me. And then they can give you a marketing student that's learning about that topic. If you need help with finances, you could find that. And so what an intern can help you do is, in a perfect world, right? Or not even in a perfect world, in a perfect scenario, you find a Tiffany who's a freaking rock star and ends up being the greatest addition to your company you've ever had, and extends long beyond their internship and is a full-time employee, right? That to me is the best case scenario. Probably not as likely, right? Now, obviously you can interview and find the best intern. But the other thing is, the intern is going to help you learn how to manage people. So after your intern, you might go, they weren't the right person, but now I've got my processes down, and now I actually feel competent as a manager. So now I can hire someone and feel like I'm not going to waste my time. I know how to manage and get the most out of that person. So the internship is as valuable for you, if not more valuable, than it is for the intern in terms of the education that it gives you. So those are kind of different options. And then the other option is, you could just go, you know what, this intern, he or she wasn't great, or maybe they were great, and maybe they don't want to work with you. Maybe they only needed 1 semester. So then you can go get another intern, and each intern, you're not paying them. I mean, I think there are paid internships as well, but you're learning. It's on the job learning for you. You're learning how to manage a person to help. You're learning how to delegate. You're learning how to leverage another human being's talents and skills and time to free up your talents and skills and time so they can be leveraged in the most valuable ways to grow your business and to grow your income. And then the last part of that, is now bringing on, that was actually why I brought on Chip. In December, I was doing an evaluation of my business as I was setting goals for the coming year. And I realized that my revenue has been the same for the last 3 or 4 years in a row. It's been consistent, almost the same, within like 100 grand. It's been very close. And it's been a good revenue. Like, if it never changed, I can pay the bills, I'm happy. But I equate revenue to impact for me, because every dollar that comes into our company is someone's life that was impacted positively in some way. Either they bought a book, they booked me to speak, they hired me to coach their team or whatever. So the way I look at it is, if I had a $10 million company, we're changing way more lives than we are now. Once it's a $100 million company, we're changing way, right? So to me, there's a total correlation. So I looked at, why has our revenue been the same? Why aren't we growing? And this may be true for you too. I realized it's a people issue. I am maxed out on my capacity. I don't have any more available time. Like, I wake up and I've got a set of things I need to get done. And at the end of the day, there's more things that I needed to get done typically than were getting done. And Tiffany's the same. She's mad because it's just her and I doing it, wearing all the hats, right? We're the CFO, the CTO, the CMO, the CEO, you know? And so I realized it's a people issue. I need another person, or more people, at least starting with one, that can take off the things off of my plate that either don't fulfill me, so I'm not enjoying those things, and equally the things that they're not really utilizing my greatest strengths, right? There's a lot of things I was doing that I'm not good at, and I'm just doing them because I'm the only one to do them, or I'm the best out of me and Tiffany. And so I brought Chip on, and I was clear, Chip, I'm bringing you on because first and foremost for the impact, but it was really a tie. I said, I want to grow our impact in the world, but also to do that, I need to take things off of my plate. So I need you to replace portions of me in what I do. Yeah, and it's been incredible. And also we're in the early stages, but we have a vision, you know, the vision that you read a little bit about and that we're working on. And it also involves growing the team and bringing on other experts in other areas to guide us. We're hiring someone that what he does is he grows companies from 7 figures to 8 and 9 figures. That's what he does. And he's done it for company after company. He's going to cost us like $40,000 this year, like $3 or $4 grand a month. And that's a big investment. But for me, it's taking a step back financially to take a quantum leap forward financially, and in terms of the impact that we make, and in terms of my quality of life, because he's going to help me build an entire team that is going to, you know, so I'm only investing my time in the areas that I am the strongest in and that I enjoy and that light me up. And then I can spend, and I told him, he said, what do you want your life to be like? And I said, I want to only work while my kids are at school. And I'm close to that right now, but I work till 5 instead of 2:30, so I want to basically cut 2.5 hours times 5 days. So what is that? 10 to 15 hours out of my schedule of work every week.
Yeah.
So that as soon as my son gets home, we go straight to play basketball. And right now we do that at 5 p.m., but I would rather do it at 2:30 when he gets home.
So tell us about your current schedule right now. When you're home and you're with the family, what happens from the time you wake up to the time you go to bed?
I love schedule. I love it because, like I said, this is what it's about, right? If you want to change your life, change your schedule. That's it. Write that down. That's worth writing down. I should write that down. You want to change your life, change your schedule, right? You want to upgrade your life, upgrade your schedule. And that's what the Miracle Morning has done for millions of people, and probably many of you on this Zoom today, right? Is you changed your schedule. You you either woke up an hour earlier, or you just simply changed how you spent the first hour of your day, and you invested it into your personal development, your growth, so you could learn what you needed to learn to develop the knowledge and the skills and the mindset. And you practice things like gratitude and meditation and affirmations and visualization. You exercise. So you wanted to change your life. You changed your schedule by putting in that block of time in the morning for growth. And now what improves? Your mindset improves. Your emotional well-being improves. Your physical body improves. If you apply whatever you apply to the Miracle Morning, if you read books on improving your business or growing your income or being a better dad or a better mom, all of a sudden, by changing your schedule and doing something differently, your entire life improves. In fact, Jeremy and everybody else, that was the quote. When I learned about morning rituals and I was looking at my schedule and I go, I am not a morning person. When am I going to do this? When am I going to do this hour in? I go, I already get up at 6 a.m. because I have to, that's when I work, right? I go, what am I going to do? Get up at 5 a.m.? No, who gets up at 5 a.m.? And then I remembered something one of my mentors, Kevin Bracey, taught me. And he always said, if you want your life to be different, this is worth writing down, by the way. If you want your life to be different, you have to be willing to do something different first. And it is so simple, but so profound. Most of us, and that leads to the Tony Robbins, always reminds us of that lesson that if you keep doing the same thing over and over and over and over and over again, you'll keep getting the result. And that's what most people do, is they do things pretty much the same each and every day, hoping for a different result, and the result never comes, right? So if you want your life to be different, you have to do something different first, or in the words of whatever I just said, right? If you want to change your life, change your schedule. I'm going to write that down. Give me 1 second to write that down. I'm actually going to post it to Facebook and then I'll go back to it. All right. And then I will give you guys my schedule if you will be patient for like 30 seconds. If you want to upgrade for life, upgrade your schedule. Boom. All right. I just put on Facebook. No, I didn't. Okay, yes, I did. Okay, so here we go. My schedule. I typically wake up at 3:30 in the morning. I do that most days unless I'm up later than normal. And I'll tell you my bedtime here in a second. But 7 days a week, my what I call my foundational schedule. And that's what I'm going to tell you right now. And this is what I encourage you to create in your own life if you don't have one, which is a foundational schedule that reflects your values and your priorities. A foundational schedule simply means this is your general day-to-day schedule that is the default schedule that you fall back on at any given time, right? Or meaning, if you go on vacation for a week, it's okay to sleep in and get off your normal diet. Not that you have to do that, but it's okay to throw your foundational schedule aside and be like, I'm on vacation. I'm gonna just do whatever I want, right? And that's your option. Now, for me, I actually found I did that before. And every day I would sleep in till like 9 or whatever. I'd wake up and I'd be like, I feel like something's missing. Jeremy, can you guess what it is?
What do you think it is?
It's the miracle morning. I'm like, I feel way better when I do my miracle morning. So just because I'm on vacation, why would I not start my day in an optimum way? That's silly. And I realized if the miracle morning helps you have a better life, well, if you do it on your vacation, it helps you have a better vacation. If it helps you optimize yourself to crush every day, right, to win every day, when you win the morning, when you win the morning on vacation, you win the day on your vacation. So I actually went back to doing it almost every day. Now I might change it, I can do it an hour later and something like that. But so I wake up at 3:30. From 3:30 to 4, that's really there's no structure. Well, there is structure, but I don't put pressure on myself to jump right into a routine. 3:30 to 4 it's really free time. And so what I do is I drink a glass of water to hydrate. I brush my teeth. I go and I do the Beamer mat. The Beamer mat is this very high-tech electrical device. It's a mat that you sit on hooked up to a computer, and it runs electrical current underneath your body, and it helps rebalance your cells. And I'm not going to explain the technical aspect of it, but if you want to search what it's all about, you can go to Beamer.com or Beamer Mat, just Google it or whatever. So I do that for 8 minutes every morning. While I'm doing that, that's when I read my book about family. So next to my Beamer mat is a stack of books about parenting or marriage. So that's what I do while I sit on the Beamer mat. I read one of those books. I read 5 to 10 pages. Then I make myself a cup of fat-induced coffee. You call it bulletproof coffee. I use organic coffee. And then I put MCT oil in it, and I put lion's mane, which is like but I put a powdered mushroom supplement. Lion's mane helps with mental focus. And then I put a scoop of cordyceps, which helps with like energy and alertness. These are both, and if you go to Amazon and you search lion's mane, right? And you can find capsules, but I've been trying to, because I take so many supplements, I try to get as many as I can in powder form without the capsule, just so I'm putting less substances in my body I don't need to, right? The capsules, the ones I buy are all like vegetable capsules, but still, I don't know how much, I'm not there when they're making it. I don't know what the heck's in it, So I try to just use as many powders as I can in my smoothies, stirred with water, in my coffee, blended, right? So I do my coffee. And then, and sometimes, I'll check Facebook sometimes for like a few minutes just to get like a quick serotonin kick, right? Like it's that 30 minutes there's no pressure for me to grow or to be productive. Neither. It's a space to just get like, just kind of wake myself up to the day. Then from 4 to 5 a.m., I do the miracle morning. I do my savers. If you don't know what the savers are, where have you been? No, but it's silence, affirmations, visualization, exercise, reading, and scribing, which is a fancy word for journaling. So I do the miracle morning from 4 to 5 p.m. a.m. From 5 a.m. to 6 a.m., it varies. Sometimes I'll just turn that into a reading set, my business reading, where I'll do extended business reading. Oh yeah. So that's when I read a business book, by the way, is from 4 to 5 a.m. during the Miracle Morning. 20 minutes of that is reading, and it's usually a business book, sometimes a book on spirituality, or some other personal development. 5 to 6, sometimes I'll read a business book. Usually what I use that time for is whatever my top business priority is for the day or at that time. I dive in from 5 to 6, and what that does is it gets me over the inertia that causes procrastination. Often, you know how that is, right? You have something scheduled at 8 a.m. to do, but you don't really want to do it because there's maybe the risk of failure involved, or it's unpleasant, or it involves potential rejection, or whatever the reason is. And we tend to push it off throughout the day. I'll do it at 9. I'll do it at 10. I'll do it after lunch. I'll do it tomorrow, right? And then we do that a lot. And so, Brian Tracy has that book and that concept he teaches called Eat the Frog, which is basically, if you had to eat a frog, don't wait until the end of the day, because you're going to think about it and stress about it and worry about it all day long, and it's going to make your day stressful. He said if you had to eat a frog, and he uses that as an analogy of like basically the most grossest thing you could think of. If you had to eat a frog, he said, do it first thing in the morning, and then it's done. Then your entire day is free from that stress. It's not on your mind. So the analogy, right, is whatever you need to do in your day, but you're kind of resisting it for whatever reason, do it first thing in the morning. So from 5 to 6 a.m. when I was writing The Miracle Equation, my new book, which is, there's a picture of it right there. When I was writing that, I wrote it from 5 a.m. to 6 a.m., right? Because that was the most important thing for me to do. So I did it first thing in the morning. And that doesn't mean that that's the only time I do it. Like sometimes I'll do it from 5 to 6 a.m. and then I'll do it again from, 7 to 8 or 8 to 9 or 10 to 11 or 12. Or I might do it from 5 to 6, 10 to 11, and 4 to 5 p.m., right? Like it depends on how much time it's needed. But like today's a good example. I ran a 1-hour training for 7,000 people in The Miracle Equation based on the people that bought the book. Some of you might have been on that. And so I really want to deliver the best training I can. So today I worked on that training from 5 a.m. to 6 a.m. And I had already outlined it, the general outline, but I dove really deep. I worked on it from 5 a.m. to 6 a.m. I worked on it again from 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. And I worked on it again from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. So I took hour-long breaks kind of in between, or 2 hour, and then I came back to it. So anyway, I went really deep into that, but there's a few different lessons there. So 5 to 6 a.m., I work on my mission, right? And that's what in the book I call your mission, your number one priority at this moment. That's what I do from 5 to 6 a.m. At 6:15 a.m., I go wake up my kids. And I have a 15-minute time block scheduled to do that. What I used to do is what I think most parents do. This is the wake up. It's usually really unpleasant for the children. It's usually aggressive, right? Like, kids, wake up! You're gonna be late for school, right? Like, and then that's usually like the first wake up, and then you go back 10 minutes later and you're like, kids, I said get up, you're gonna be late, right? So we can all relate, maybe not every day, but we can relate usually to some version of that. Or at the very least, it's, hey buddy, time to wake up, and then we leave. What I decided to do is I decided that I wanted to bookend my day by deepening the relationship and connection I have with my children. So from 6:15 to 6:30 a.m., I rub their backs. I speak in a very gentle voice. I often will sing or rap to them. Sometimes I'll sing. Jeremy, I do the Miracle Morning rap like probably a third of the days I wake up my kids. And it's funny. And I always do it in different tempos. I go, Sophie and Howie, if you want to wake up to your full potential, the Miracle Morning is so essential, right? Or I'll go, if you want to wake up to your full potential, the Miracle Morning is so essential, right? So I just mix it up all the time. I do it in all these different tones. So and then I will sometimes turn a song on the radio. Sometimes I'll do that. And then I got to tell you guys my children's new favorite way to wake up. One day I saw this unicorn. This was probably a month ago. I saw this stuffed unicorn sitting on my daughter's floor. It It was a rainbow unicorn. Jeremy, have you heard this story?
No.
Oh, you'll love this. So I saw this rainbow unicorn in my daughter's sport, and I picked it up, and I was like, Toby, Howie, wake up. And they wouldn't wake up. And I go, you don't want to see the aggressive unicorn, do you? If you're not waking up, I'll be the aggressive unicorn. And they wouldn't wake up. So I like started smacking them in the face with it like gently, you know, and I started going, you better get up. Da, da, da. And so long story short, it morphed into the inappropriate unicorn. And the inappropriate unicorn is kind of rated PG-13 sometimes. I'm just going to be transparent. And I often lecture the unicorn on the things it says to my kids, because they're things I would never say and they should never say to each other. But it's interesting, by having this character, I've actually been able to, like I say, you guys don't, I'm trying to think of what I even say. Like, I'll say like, get your butts out of bed, or, you know, I'll say PG-13 words and whatever. But the thing is, they crack up laughing, right? Like at the inappropriate things that I say. And they're kid inappropriate, like I said, they're not highly inappropriate. But it is their favorite thing. And whenever I forget to, like if I don't see the unicorn and I forget and I go, hey guys, time to wake up. They're like, we don't want you to wake us up. We want the inappropriate unicorn to wake us up. And I go, oh yeah, my bad. And I go grab the inappropriate unicorn. So it's totally fun. And if the inappropriate unicorn says something that is really inappropriate, I'll be like, unicorn, that is not okay. And they'll be like, shut up, Dad. Nobody asked you. So that's the example of, actually, that's a good example of like the inappropriate things it'll say. It'll tell me to shut up and, you know, whatever. And yeah, so but that's the wake up. So I wake them up, and then what happens is at the 15-minute mark, I go, all right, guys, it's 6:30, and they know, by the way, they call me the daddy snooze button. I'm the daddy snooze button, right? They have 15 minutes, once I'm in there, to just lay there and stretch and start to wake up. But the beauty is, I'm saying, a lot of times I do positive affirmations. I'll wake them up by going, Sophie, you're so smart, and you work so hard. I'm like rubbing the back, you know, you work so hard, and today is going to be the best day of your life. And I'll usually, if I know their schedule, I'll go, today's going to be the best day ever. Today you have a play date, or you have this at school, or you have that at school, right? And so, anyway, I'm going too far into this, but the point is, I wake my kids up in a way that's really pleasant and that they love, and that we deepen our connection and we deepen our relationship, right? And then, by the way, the last thing is that if they don't, if I say, all right, it's 6:30, time to get out of bed, and I'll pull the covers back, and if they still won't get out of bed, they know what happens, which is the tickle monster comes, and I tickle the heck out of them until they go, okay, we'll get out of bed, right? But still, a relatively pleasant way, rather than shouting to get them out of bed when they're not getting out of bed, right? I think tickling versus shouting, right? There's a difference in the impact that you're having on your kids' emotional well-being. And then I help them get ready. Then I go work out from 6:30 to 6:15 while they get dressed. And then from 6:45 to 7:15, I help them get ready. And not always, by the way, this depends. If I've got a lot of work, I will, after the wake up, I'll go back to work. But I'd say about 3 out of 5 days, I help my wife make them waters and get their lunch ready. And what it is it's A, me helping my wife, but B, it's me just daddy being around while they're doing their day-to-day packing lunches and just getting ready to go, right? And then I used to take them to school every day, and that became too much for me. I was neglecting too much of my work time. So now I take my daughter to school one day a week, and I take my son to school one day a week. And it actually kind of makes it even more valuable, because they're like, yeah, this is the special day, whereas they tend to take it for granted if it's every single day. So at least that's how I justified going from every day to one day a week in my mind. Then I work all day. I work all day, and then when I get off work at 5, and again, I'm trying to move that to 2:30. I'm not trying. I'm moving in that direction. But when my son gets home, we play basketball together. We practice basketball. At 5 o'clock, I am off the clock. And here's a little bonus tip to help you be accountable to that. I have the Alexas all over our house, in my kids' bedroom and in our kitchen. The Alexa says, "Reminder, kids, it's time for daddy to get off work." So before, I used to be able to, if I wanted to keep working, they didn't know it was 5. They weren't paying attention. I could just keep working. I wanted accountability so that I couldn't do that. So they will come in and go, "Daddy, it's time to get off work." If I'm not already out of the office, and I'm like, all right, and I'm off work. That's a little bonus tip. From 5 to 6, it's play with the kids time. I play with my son basketball. My daughter and I, do different things. And then 6 to 6:30 is family dinner. 6:30 to 7 is family time where we'll play a board game or something. 7 p.m. is bath time for my kids. 7:30, I go up, and that's my bookending the day. I read them stories, or I tell them stories from my own life. And that's been more valuable than reading them stories, because it allows them to get to know their dad at a very deep level. And it also enables me to teach them lessons based on my life experience. And I want to share one valuable lesson and one valuable resource for you before we wrap up today. The valuable lesson I learned from Joe Rogan. Now, Joe Rogan does not deem himself as a parenting expert. Now, if you don't know who Joe Rogan is, by the way, he runs the #1 podcast in the world, the Joe Rogan Experience. I just read an article. That podcast reaches 1 billion people a month, which by that number, Joe Rogan is the most influential media person in the history of the world. Think about that for a second. He reaches more people than Oprah did. He reaches more people than Larry King, anyone, Joe Rogan. So now I'm going to warn you, by the way, if you go listen to Joe Rogan, one podcast, he might talk about being a dad. The next podcast, he's talking about UFC fighting. The next one, he's talking about marijuana or ayahuasca. So he talks about whatever he's interested in, and it is definitely R-rated. So I'm going to warn you, this isn't like bring your kids to watch his show. And if you're very conservative, I'm warning you, don't say I didn't tell you. You can't go, how could you recommend Joe Rogan? He says the F word like all the time. I told you. All right, but here's what he said. Arguably the most valuable parenting lesson I've ever learned came from a random tangent that Joe Rogan was on in an episode. He said, somebody asked him about his kids and how he parents them. And he said, most parents, I feel like, and he goes, I used to do this. He said they condemn their kids when their kids make a mistake, right? Their kids do something that they get in trouble for at school, or they do something at home and they take their brother or their sister's thing. And what we do is parents will go, you shouldn't do that. You're bad. You're wrong, right? Some form of that. No. And what it does is it creates, the kid feels embarrassed. The kid feels ashamed. Definitely doesn't feel connected to the parent. They feel disconnected. And usually you're not even making the impact that you want to, because as soon as you turn your back, if you were aggressive and you condemned them and they roll their eyes. As soon as you're turning around, they don't like the way that felt. So they feel bad about themselves. They feel disempowered. They also put you on a pedestal like, man, my dad's perfect. I can't even relate to him, or I can't relate to my mom. What Rogan said, here's the lesson. When his kids mess up, he never yells at them. He said, and of course, sometimes he gets upset, he does, but for the most part, he never yells at them. And I almost never yell at my kids. He said he never yells at them. And he never says, you're wrong, you're bad, you shouldn't have done that. He immediately looks for an experience from his own life in his past when he did something similar to what they did. And instead of saying you shouldn't do that, he goes, hey, son, you know what? I actually did something almost identical to that when I was your age. And the kid goes, you did? And he says, yeah, let me tell you what happened. I did this, I did that. And I've told my kids all the stories of me stealing my parents' car and, cheating at school. I've told them all the stories, all the bad stuff. And it's from this lesson. Rogan said, I will tell them what I did. And they now feel connected, like, oh my God, my dad gets me. Yeah. My dad gets me. He relates to me. He understands me, right? And I feel connected to him because he's not yelling at me. He's telling me about his own life. And then what Rogan does is he tells him about the negative consequence or whatever the result was, whatever the outcome was. Yeah, so I did something just like you did, son. And here's what happened. It was bad. I got grounded. I got arrested. right? And the kids, and he really goes deep and tells a really painful story around the consequence to where the kid goes, oh my God, I don't want that to happen to me. And Rogan goes, yeah, so look, he goes, I never did it again. And if I were you, I remember this story, remember what happened to me. And if somebody, if somebody asks you to do drugs, right, say, nope, my dad tried that. I'm just using that as an example, right? But if somebody asks you to ditch school, say, nope, my dad did that. He got caught. He got suspended. His parents grounded. No thanks. And it's all because he didn't condemn his kids. He didn't just yell at them or punish them. He connected with them through his own life experience and by sharing the lesson that he learned through that experience. So anyway, that's one of the greatest parenting lessons I ever learned. And then one resource I want to share, if your kids, actually my son's in it, I thought my son would be too young for this. It is a website, apex4kids.com. APEX, the number 4, KIDS, apex4kids.com. The gentleman's name is Caleb Maddox. He is now 17 years old. He launched this when he was 15 years old. He is personal development for kids. His videos are highly entertaining. They capture my 6-year-old's attention to where the first video that Caleb, his program is $7 a month, by the way. And by the way, I'm not an affiliate. I just literally, I love this kid. I bought it going, it was great. And then I started watching with my kids so that I can know what they were learning. I think it's important, by the way, if your kids are engaging in learning or growth in any way, you should be there with them as much of the time as possible so that you can understand where their mindset is based on what they're learning. And if you need to teach them a lesson, right? If they mess up or whatever, you don't have to be the parent teaching the lesson. You can be like, hey, remember when you were watching the video last week and Caleb said this? And they're like, oh yeah. And they love Caleb. He's hilarious. He's awesome. He's their age, right? He's young. He's fun. So they like Caleb more than they like me, I think, right? So I go, remember Caleb said that? Yeah, so what do you think? How should you apply that in this situation? So anyway, check out that program. It's $7 a month, plus Caleb's got a ton of free content, but it is the best personal development program for kids I have ever seen. And it's funny, Caleb says this, he goes, personal development is usually practiced by people in their 30s and 40s and 50s because he goes, for lack of, they're messed up. Life's messed them up and they're trying to fix themselves. He goes, I realized, why don't we teach kids these lessons when they're kids so that they can apply them throughout their entire life and not get messed up and have to go back and learn the lessons. I was like, that's a pretty brilliant idea. So anyway, it's a new resource that we've been applying for a few weeks. And I'm so excited. Like, I feel like my kid, this program will impact my kids, similar to Fambundance, right? You're the primary teacher for your kids, but the more resources we can find that not only help us be better parents, but that we can directly feed to our children to help them grow and be better versions of themselves, I think that, the better for all of us.
I agree. Caleb Maddox is awesome. I've been watching a lot of his stuff lately.
Have you? Oh, that's
yeah,
awesome.
I have. Yeah, I have. I was just making a whole bunch of notes on Caleb today. I was going through all of his Instagram videos and watching how he's putting those together. Nice. Just starting to benchmark and trend and take note of who are all of the influencers inside of the space of our NGL community inside of Fambundance, which is our 12 to 18-year-old, who Caleb mainly speaks to those kids. I know Howie's a little ahead of his time, if you will, based on just you, the school, everything that is positioning him to be interested in that type of content. But yeah, man. Hey, I want to ask a couple of questions. I know you got to get going. One is, tell us about what your family dinner looks like and what are some of the things that you found to be helpful in engaging your kids or your wife or the family in general in conversation?
Yeah, so at dinner, we do a few things, and we definitely aren't perfect at this. I'd say we're, a 7 out of 10. I mean, I wouldn't rate us like the leaders in this space. But I start out by, we usually will either, say a quick prayer of gratitude. So we kind of switch it up. Or we'll go around the table and say what we're grateful for.
Great.
Now, one of the things I just started doing a few weeks ago that it just popped in my mind as an idea, which I really liked it, we will go around the table and each acknowledge the family member to our left or whatever, right? Like we'll acknowledge them for something that they have done that we appreciate, that we've noticed, like maybe they're working hard, or they've improved an attitude, or, we appreciate that mom always, made us this great dinner or whatever. So we take turns acknowledging each other. And that's about it. That's all we do. And then we eat dinner.
I love that. Those are powerful, man. I really, gratitude is something that I know a lot of families in this community do just naturally. And the addition to the acknowledgement towards something that someone is improving upon or something that a strength that they're bringing to the family or some sort of a service that maybe gets overlooked. It's a great way to acknowledge and appreciate your family. And you could do that by just saying, hey, what are you grateful for about the person to your left? Yeah. And then when you tuck the kids in, as you tuck them in, what type of interaction do you have with your kids, and how do you, tell stories or speak to them, or what's that routine look like?
So yeah, so it's really we usually it's telling stories, and I usually will ask them. I go, hey, do you guys want me to read you a story, tell you a story, or it's usually one of those two, and it's almost always tell us a story. And then sometimes I kind of have run out of stories lately. I'm like, I don't know what else I can't remember anything else from my childhood. I don't know what else to tell you.
Yeah.
So we've been reading a little bit more lately. But and I have a note in my phone called, nighttime, Sophie and Howie stories. So whenever I think of a story, I will write it down. But yeah, that's really it. Is I tell them a story, and then I kiss them, kiss them goodnight, and I spend about 10 or 15 minutes with them, and then I kiss them goodnight and tell them I love them, and have a great night, and that's about it.
And why do you think this is my last question for you? Why, it's a two-part question. Why do you think it's so hard for an entrepreneur to, especially one that has momentum in their business is becoming more and more successful? You experienced this, especially before cancer. What are some of the things that you noticed about yourself before cancer that now looking back, you can be like, oh, this is why I was so driven for my business and not putting my family first. Like, these are some of the triggers. And now looking at it, here's what I would tell myself.
Yeah. So part of it is a scarcity mindset, right? There's not enough time. We don't have enough money. We don't, right? So the scarcity mindset, I think, drives a lot of our behavior. And so for me, it was like, I need to invest as many hours as possible every single day to make money. So, it really was, doing it largely for the family. I really wanted to provide financial security and financial freedom for the family. And I used to work, before we had kids, I would work till 9 p.m. And my wife finally was like, hey, I'd love to spend some time with you. And it was the same thing. I had this scarcity mindset. I need to invest every possible hour to make money. And here's what I found. Here's what I would do differently. And I did it differently. You just set a cutoff time. If you decide families first, you decide, when am I going to spend time with my family? And then when will my work fit in between that, right? And so what happened was, when I started working, instead of getting off at 9 p.m., I got off at 5 p.m. My income grew, right? Because what happens is, I forgot what principle that is, but it's the amount of time allotted, you will fill it up with busy work, right? So if you allow yourself to work till 9, you're not necessarily going to get more work done than you would till 5. You're just going to get a lot of random things done that don't move the needle. So part of that is also applying what I talk about in the Miracle Equation book, which is having a mission, being clear, what is your top priority, right? And if right now you need to make more money, then okay, then that's the top priority. But it doesn't mean it's a priority over mom or over your kids. It just means that you make sure that the activities that you're doing during the day are income generating activities, not busy work like answering emails and surfing social media and playing on your phone, but that you're efficient and effective with your time in the areas that actually drive the needle movers, right? That move the needle in your business or in the areas of your business or your income that are important. So that's really it, is I realized that scarcity mindset drove me to work as much as I possibly could. You think about it, you literally, if you're an entrepreneur trying to build a business, you could work 24 hours a day, if that was physically possible, and still have more to do than you could possibly get done. I think I heard John Broman saying it, or not, John Berghoff in a speech once, that there was a study done, I don't remember who did it, but the average CEO has something like 200 to 300 hours of unfinished work at any given time. So what that means, and this is like the average Fortune 500 CEO, what that means is every one of us has more to do than we can get done. So the solution is, you've got to, again, you want to change your life, change your schedule. You've got to get clear on what are the minimum number of activities that will move the needle for me, so that I can allocate the minimum amount of time necessary to get those done. And that way I can allocate the needed time for my kids and for my family. And I will create a foundational schedule that is in alignment with those components. And so that was, for me,
yeah.
That was key.
Yeah, and I think that there's something that we've not talked about, and we won't have time to get on in this call. Maybe we can get you back later this year or beginning of next year.
Absolutely.
Can't wait to have you in an event, buddy. It's going to be amazing to spend that time with you and your family. But the idea of a mission and a vision, something that comes up for me when I hear and I look at my own experiences and my own relationships, that without clarity of what the vision is for oneself and for one's family, without getting clear on that vision and creating a family vision that is a shared vision collectively, it's really quite challenging to stay committed to anything other than just the time. And
Sure.
even when you say, why am I committing this time? Why am I setting these alarms? Why do I want to spend more time with my family? And it's something that we just did in Philly, and something that we did at the Philly Fam Abundance, and it's something that Mike did a training on about a month ago. We did it on a Connect and Share call, which is helping a family to co-create their family values and helping a family to co-create the way that they want to show up in each of the Fam Abundance pillars, or show up in, and of course, they mirror Go Abundance. So healthy habits, financial literacy, genuine contribution, authentic relationships, bucket list adventures. So it's interesting when a family creates those things together, now it becomes a team effort all together to protect this space and to create visions for what's going to happen in this time when we're spending together. So it's interesting that one of the things that is probably the most challenging in this process is getting a vision for yourself as a family man or family woman, if you're a woman on this call, and also enrolling your family and helping to have a co-created and shared vision so that you're all working towards the same vision together as a family. And then when you start to deploy things like setting the alarms and then plugging into some of the different types of content for the kids, like a Caleb Maddox. Caleb Maddox, what he does is he opens up a whole, we just did a call on this earlier this week, which is Caleb gives insight. And by him bringing insight into a young person's mind and to our minds, because he's saying a lot of great stuff that we all subscribe to, and it's great to hear it from a 17-year-old. But when he starts to talk to the kids, now the kids
Share real quick. I have an interview in 45 seconds, buddy.
Hey, so thanks so much
for you should keep going because you're dropping a lot of wisdom. I need to say goodbye, everybody. Thank you for your valuable time. I hope you got a few tips that are actionable you can put into practice with your family. And Jared, to your point, it starts with the vision. And then my advice on the foundational schedule, right, is once you have a vision, that's high level. How do you bring the vision down to earth, down to reality, right? And that foundational schedule is where it simply should be in alignment with living into that vision that you and your family have set. So I love all of you. I look forward to seeing you. Hopefully,
great job, man.
All right, I'll talk to you all soon. Take care.
See you, Hal. And that'll really be the end. I'll just finish up with actually, since Kendall is right here, and Kendall's been here the whole entire time, and he's someone who has gone through several different Fam Abundance adventures and just experiences where him and his family are co-creating together. I love, Kendall, anything that you could speak to in regards to some of the things Hal said and how that fits in with what you've been experiencing as a father and a family man.
I really resonated with, and I had heard Hal talk about, I think on one of his podcasts, about what is really your focus, right? And so I can say that family is my focus and they're my most important thing. But yet when I look at my actions and where I spend my time, very similar to Hal's realization, after listening to Hal on the podcast and hearing him reiterate it here, it wasn't in alignment. It was in words, but not in actions. And so, it was becoming intentional and following some of what, Hal did. As I made a commitment to start taking the kids to school, trying to make sure that when I'm not traveling, that I'm here at dinner time and that we're together, the electronics go away, but just being intentional with the time and actually understanding where my time goes, and that was something that, like I said, prior to this, and, I was pretty excited that Hal was going to be on here and just hearing him reiterate it. But for me, that's been a big thing, is actually noticing, where my time goes and then being intentional in prioritization, because it was so easy to think I was committed to family, but, once again, I really wasn't. So.
And what'd you think of the idea of having an alarm set?
Yeah, it's to me, I follow a lot of his processes anyways. And so, yeah, it works for me. I've been doing that for a while now.
Nice.
Yeah.
Excellent. And would anyone else like to add anything before we jump off and say goodbye? There's a handful of people on here. Love to hear any insights, anything that you took away that you can apply now as in your family or with your kids. Anything at all. Just love to hear your voices.
Yeah, what's up, brother James? It's Matt.
Hey, Matt.
Hey, too bad we're not hiking tomorrow.
I know. It is nice to see you, though.
Yeah, it's good to see you too, man. This is awesome. Thank you for inviting all the Go Bros to this call. The Miracle Morning is one of the top 3 most influential books I ever read.
Beautiful.
And yeah, just because it basically gave me an extra hour of my day every single day to get my head right. It really changed my life. But listening to Hal talk about his schedule was the most impactful part for me was how he wakes his kids up and that intention there, because I don't have that same intention. And I thought that was probably the most powerful piece that I got out of this. Man, he's intentional about everything. It's like every single second of his day is got a purpose to it. I thought that was pretty cool too.
Yeah, well said. And I totally agree. The waking up, I can just remember being woken up as a kid. Like my mom would peek in the door and be like, "Time to get up." And he was very soft about it. And it wasn't unenjoyable. But when I think about alarm clocks and how we wake up, the more I've subscribed to waking up with a gentle sound, the more I program my alarm to wake up with a soft acoustic guitar versus dun, 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 dun.
Yeah, right.
So I think I've noticed that my energy is different on whatever song I wake up to. So the difference between that intention, it makes a big difference for how a person rises in the morning. So I think that's a great takeaway.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me, man.
You're welcome. And maybe one more here.
Another one too that definitely is a takeaway for me, adding it to the dinner, is the acknowledging, the person to the left. I love that, because we do some of the gratitude, but we don't necessarily acknowledge, and I can see where that could go, and that deeper relationship with the family and just acknowledging each of the individual members. So we'll definitely be, putting that into practice, tonight. So,
dude, I love that. Thanks for bringing that back around. That was a note I made. We have a family engagement coming up here with a whole family coming into town. I've been thinking, what are some unique ways that we can connect? And it's the gratitude thing, but that activity is if done early in the weekend, it's a 3-day thing. I think around the second or third meal, it will inevitably just bring us closer together as a family of 10 or so. That's great.
That's awesome.
Awesome. Ladies, gentlemen, Fam Abundance team, we just got to have a nice chat with Hal Elrod. That was pretty cool. Thanks for being on here. This is a Fam Abundance Learn and Grow, and we do these twice a month. We've got a whole bunch of great people lined up. Our next one is with the one, the only, wait, let me make sure. I'm pretty sure it's with John Broman. I'm pretty sure it's with Johnny Broman. Learn and Grow with John Broman on Tuesday the 28th. So Tuesday, May 28th at 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time, we have a Learn and Grow call with John Broman. That is going to be unbelievable. He runs the Front Row Dads. He runs the Front Row Foundation. He, similar to Hal, has looked at his schedule and said, how do I put more time into my family? John was at our Philly event last year in 2018. So that's on the 28th. And then the next week on June 3rd, we have Miriam Pico, who's going to be with us talking about the power of music and play and being able to use how she uses music in teaching young children in a community that I live close to Miriam. She's amazing. She has a great catalog of songs, and she's just going to talk about being a mom and being creative and empowering your kids to be creative. And then we have a Learn and Grow. I am so excited. June 4th with Vanessa. Vanessa she's traveled all over the world helping young people in all sorts of different cultures and all sorts of different communities. She is phenomenal. She's started the Amala Foundation out of Austin, Texas. We'll talk about that. She's about to go to the Global Youth Peace Summit. She's just all over the world in regards to how she's connecting to what the world needs. She's worked with Acton Academy. So many great things coming up on these Learn and Grow calls. Thank you so much for being here, being with us. We'll tell you more about it in the future. And someone just joined the meeting. I hope that you enjoy the recording. Everyone make it a great day. See ya.